Hey friends, and welcome back to the MLG podcast. I hope you're doing really well. I'm freezing, thanks for asking. This is episode number 20, and I'm very excited to get right into today's topic. Today we're going to talk about how knowledge does not necessarily equal transformation, and also about a little uncomfortable thing I call an enlightenment hangover. We all know the saying, once you've seen something, you can't unsee it. And similarly, once you know something, you can't unknow it. However, and that's why we're here today, there is a big gap between knowing and actually changing. And that gap is often our trap. I learned this lesson over and over again, my friends, so don't worry, I'm with you in the trenches. Today we're going to talk about what it takes to go from knowing to being. Let's get into it. I've been into personal development my whole life, and I always felt like something was missing, like that one click, that one thing that I will realize that will bring everything into the light and make me understand myself and the world, and an opportunity for me to tap into my greatness and find real meaning in my life. So in my endeavor to get that, I read book after book, and I watched and listened to mentors and gurus, and I found that a recurring theme was that they were all struggling for years, and then one day something just clicked for them and everything made sense. They got this massive realization, some even call it a download, and all of a sudden life made sense to them. They found peace and deep meaning in their lives, and from that day on, everything was different. Now, if you're a mere mortal like me, hearing shit like that can really set you back and mess with your mind big time. So this creates a really big expectation, right? And that expectation can keep you stuck for years, because instead of just making continuous progress, you are waiting for this one thing that you will realize one day, where everything is clear, you know the meaning of your life, and you know exactly what to do. Now, to a smaller extent, we all have these click moments, right? These realizations and light bulb moments that actually have an impact on us, and that change our perspective of the world and the way we want to live our lives. The thing is, it's very seldom that you don't have to do anything afterwards. It's very seldom that all it takes is that realization and then your life changes. And this is the gap that I was talking about in the intro. And this is where the pain usually happens and where we often stop and get discouraged. It's not a realization or an insight that you see life differently and now it's going to just change everything for you. You're not just going to change. You have to make that change happen. Realization or light bulb moments open the door for you, but you still have to step through and onto the new path and make your way to your new destination. And when you hear this, it might sound completely obvious, but how many times in your life have you had a realization and then just expected yourself, your internal world, and from then on your external world to change? For example, maybe you've been stuck in a thought or an emotion or a memory or an experience for a very long time. And then one day you feel, you know what, I'm done now. It's time to let go of this. It's time for a new chapter in my life. I'm stopping it right now and stepping into my new life. I have finally transcended this emotional state or experience. Or you read a book through which so much becomes clear to you, and you really feel like this is a pivoting point in your life and that you're going to live from a different perspective now. Or you feel so motivated to step into your greatness and you can't wait for tomorrow so that you can start your new life. So on this day, you're super happy, you're floating on cloud 9 of the mental freedom heavens, and you can't wait to start your new life. You go to bed with a smile and peace in your heart, and then the morning comes and bam, that unwanted feeling or thought or emotion is back with a vengeance, and it may have even brought a few unwanted friends along as well this time. And that, my friend, is what I call an enlightenment hangover. It's if you go from this high of feeling inspired and clarity to waking up the next morning and feeling even worse than you did before you had your realization. And trust me, there's no aspirin for that kind of headache. Now, it is in this moment, on that gloomy, crappy morning, that your journey actually starts. Welcome. Yesterday you opened the door and you were blinded by the beautiful streaks of sunlight. And today your vision has cleared, your eyes have adjusted, and you see there's quite a difficult trail ahead of you with a few challenging steps. Now, it's very important at this point that you start taking action, whether it's physical action around you, externally, or mental action. Because if you get discouraged that you don't feel as good as you felt yesterday, you're going to be even worse off. Because knowing and not doing is definitely much more painful than not knowing at all. Now, there are 3 things that I've discovered that you need to prime your mind with if you are going to go on the journey from knowing to being. I know I sound like a broken record, but know that you are responsible. Transformation does not happen to you, it happens because you make it happen. Now, this might sound like a drag or a burden, but trust me, it's exactly the opposite. Imagine what a disaster it would be if your transformation depended on luck or good fortune. I have the sentence that I always say to myself: if it is to be, it's up to me. Now trust me, I also fall off the path very often, but then I have only myself to face for this. I can't blame anyone else or any circumstances for the fact that I have returned to my old ways. When I take responsibility, I take back my power to place myself back on the path and keep moving forward. The second point is to recommit to your decision to transform as often as you need to. It does not mean that once you make a decision that you're not going to wobble and want to go back to the easier ways. Often you have to recommit to that decision every day. Sometimes 10 times a day, 20 times, 30, 100 times. Whatever it takes, recommit over and over again toward your decision to transform and integrate the realization that you had. And this isn't only true for physical decisions or goals that you made, so in the external world, but also mental decisions. If you go back to our example from earlier that you decided you were going to let something go, that thought will come back and haunt you, trust me. And at that point, you have to recommit to your decision to let it go, even if it's every 5 minutes of the day. And you can use aids to help you here, like I like to use anchor thoughts. So a specific thought that I know will break my pattern and put me back on track. Or something else that I like to do is to visualize how it will be if I'm free from this feeling. Or I imagine staying in this state that I hate forever. And that feeling becomes so unbearable for me that it forces me to shift my focus in order to change. Now, when you see that you can't get yourself out of it, then you can call on people you trust. I do that so often when I see myself going down that mental spiral and I can't necessarily stop it because sometimes it is overwhelming. Then I have a few key people that I trust and who I can call on to help me break out of that spiral and to shift my perspective again. With this comes my last point: manage your expectations. When we have a grand realization or this burst of motivation, we are usually very amped up and we are excited for the journey ahead. But we have the tendency to overestimate our level of resilience and perseverance and underestimate the length and the difficulty of the road ahead. You can be absolutely certain that drive and motivation will forsake you, and that's where you need a plan in place that you can call on once that happens. I did an episode on motivation a while back. You can find it here or also in the description box below. So I think you get the point by now. Don't stop after the realization. Don't read a book and think it will change you without you actually making the changes. Don't do a course and think your work is done after you've completed the last module. Don't feel discouraged if you feel yourself moving back or defaulting back to your old ways of thinking and doing. When that happens, it's up to you to take responsibility, to recommit, and to manage your expectations of your motivation and your drive. And the point is to just take one step at a time and keep moving forward, because this is the only way that transformation really happens. That's it for today. Don't go anywhere, otherwise you'll miss the bloopers that are coming up right now. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, and as always, remember to live an empowered life. I'll catch you in the next one. And they live for toward getting myself into a different level. No? No. And trust me, there's no aspirin that's what. And to not be now it is that. And trust me, there's no aspirin for that. And trust me, there's no. I don't know what the I'm saying. That's it for today. Don't go anywhere, otherwise you'll miss the bloopers. That's it for today. Don't go anywhere, otherwise you'll miss the bloopers. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and always remember to never